November 14, 1970, 2:47 a.m., Travis Air Force Base, California. The cargo plane touches down carrying 38 flag-draped coffins. Ground crew in yellow vests move across the tarmac under floodlights, their breath visible in the cold. They've done this before. 17 flights this month alone. They unload in silence, hydraulic lifts whining, wheels scraping concrete. A staff sergeant checks the manifest. Everything matches, every name, every serial number, every destination. What he doesn't check is weight. That's the moment Frank Lucas becomes the most dangerous man in New York. 6 months earlier, Lucas sits in a restaurant in Bangkok, watching a man named Ike Atkinson cut into a steak. Atkinson is Air Force, Sergeant First Class. Been in country 3 years. He knows the bases, knows the schedules, knows which officers look the other way when cash appears. How much can move? Lucas asks. Atkinson doesn't look up. Depends what you're moving. Enough to change everything. Then you need something no one inspects. Lucas waits. Atkinson sets down his fork. They don't inspect the dead. The restaurant is crowded. Ceiling fans turn slowly overhead. Nobody at the other tables knows what just changed hands across white tablecloth and cigarette smoke. Lucas doesn't smile, doesn't nod, just sits back and lights a cigarette. "Show me," he says. The Golden Triangle sits where Thailand, Burma, and Laos collapse into each other. Mountains, jungle, no real borders. Opium poppies grow in fields that belong to no government. Warlords control the harvest. Chinese chemists run the labs. Product moves by mule train, by river, by small planes that land on dirt strips and vanish before dawn. The French used to control the pipeline. Marseille, Corsican gangsters, Italian mob families in New York taking delivery. But that system is dying. Arrests, seizures, heat. The old structure is cracking. Lucas sees the gap. He flies to Chiang Mai with $40,000 cash in a leather bag. Meets a Chinese broker named Jimmy in a warehouse that smells like diesel and raw opium. Jimmy doesn't trust him. Jimmy doesn't trust anyone who isn't connected to the 5 families. "You're nobody," Jimmy says. "Why should I sell to nobody?" Lucas opens the bag, counts out 10,000 on a wooden table. Then he says the only thing that matters, "Because I don't need the Italians, and neither do you." Jimmy stares at the money, then at Lucas, then back at the money. "How much do you want?" "Enough to flood Harlem, enough to kill the French Connection before it kills itself." Jimmy laughs. It's not a friendly sound. "You got a death wish, or you got a plan?" Lucas doesn't blink. "I got both." The product comes in bricks, 98% pure, uncut, heavier than anything on the streets, cheaper to produce, worth more per kilo than gold. Lucas tests it himself in a hotel room in Bangkok, watching a local addict nod off after a dose half the normal size. "That's the one," Lucas says. His cousin Dell stands by the window. "How we getting it home?" Lucas lights another cigarette, looks out at the city. Same way the soldiers do. Ike Atkinson knows mortuary affairs personnel at 5 bases: Tan Son Nut, Bien Hoa, Da Nang, Pleiku, Cam Ran Bay, men who prep bodies for transport, men who seal coffins, men who load cargo, men who work overnight when supervision is thin and everyone wants to finish and go to sleep. Atkinson doesn't ask for volunteers. He selects. He picks a staff sergeant named Collins at Tan Son Nut. Collins has gambling debts. Collins has a daughter with medical bills. Collins has exactly the kind of life that makes men do things they'll regret forever. "I need you to make space," Atkinson says one night outside the mortuary tent. Collins knows what that means. He's not stupid. He looks at Atkinson for a long time. Then he looks at the envelope in Atkinson's hand. "How much space?" "Enough." "How often?" "Every 2 weeks. Maybe 3. Collins takes the envelope, doesn't open it, just puts it in his pocket and walks back inside the tent. The first coffin leaves Vietnam on June 8, 1970. Private First Class Raymond Keller, killed by sniper fire outside Hue, 20 years old. His body is prepared according to regulation, embalmed, dressed in Class A uniform, flag across the casket. What mortuary records don't show is the false bottom. 18 kilos of heroin, triple wrapped in plastic, sealed in a compartment built into the coffin's base. The weight is close enough. The measurements exact. The casket passes inspection at Tan Son Nut. Passes again at Travis. Arrives at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. A man Lucas has never met, a cargo handler named Perry, is waiting. Perry's been paid $20,000 to make sure one specific coffin gets loaded onto the wrong truck. Not the one going to the funeral home. The one going to a warehouse in Newark. Perry does his job. The coffin disappears. 3 days later, Lucas is in that warehouse, watching two of his cousins pry open the base with crowbars. The heroin is there. Untouched. Dry. Perfect. Lucas doesn't celebrate. He just nods once. Run it. The dope hits Harlem in July. It's sold under a brand nobody's heard before. Blue Magic. Stamped on glassine envelopes. Powder so pure it doesn't need the usual cut. Dealers buy it for half what they're paying the Italian suppliers. Addicts buy it because one bag does what two used to. Word spreads fast. Harlem, South Bronx, Brooklyn, then Philadelphia, then D.C. By September, every junkie in New York knows the name. By October, every dealer wants a connect. Lucas doesn't sell to strangers. He sells to family, brothers, cousins, men he grew up with in North Carolina, men who will die before they talk. He keeps the operation tight. No flashy cars, no loud parties, no bragging in bars. The moment you act like you got it, he tells them, is the moment they take it. A detective named Richie Roberts is sitting in a diner in Newark when he first hears the name Frank Lucas. It's October 1970. Roberts is Narcotics Division, clean cop in a dirty department. He's listening to a snitch named Mikey, who's nervous and sweating even though the diner is cold. There's new dope, Mikey says. Pure stuff. Blue Magic. Nobody knows where it's coming from. Not the Italians, not the mob, nobody. Roberts writes it down. Who's moving it? Black guy. Runs everything through family. Doesn't talk to nobody. Doesn't trust nobody. Name? Lucas. That's all I got. Lucas. Roberts circles the name. Where's it coming from? Mikey shakes his head. Nobody knows. That's the thing. Nobody fucking knows. By December, Lucas is moving 100 kilos a month. The money is insane. More than he can count. More than he can spend. He buys a house in Teaneck, New Jersey. Quiet neighborhood. White suburb. Nobody asks questions when a well-dressed black man pays cash. His wife Eva doesn't like it. She wants him to stop. She can feel what's coming. You're pushing too hard, she says one night. People notice. Lucas is counting money in the den. Stacks of hundreds on the desk. People always notice. That's not the problem. Then what is? He stops counting. Looks at her. The problem is stopping. The moment you stop, someone else starts. And then you're the target. So what's the plan? Do this forever? Lucas doesn't answer. Because he doesn't have one. Nobody does. You ride it until it breaks, or until you break, or until somebody breaks you. A federal task force forms in early 1971, DEA, FBI, NYPD. They're targeting the new heroin pipeline. The French Connection is dead. Blue Magic is everywhere. They know it's coming from Southeast Asia. They don't know how. Roberts is part of the task force. He's obsessed with Lucas now. Has photos, surveillance logs, financial records that don't add up. But no hard proof, no shipments, no informants who'll talk. He's a ghost, Roberts says in a briefing. No one sees him move product. No one sees him collect money. He doesn't meet anyone who isn't blood. His supervisor, a captain named Toback, leans back in his chair. Then get to the blood. They won't flip. Everyone flips. Roberts knows that's not true, but he doesn't argue. Ike Atkinson gets sloppy in the spring of '71. Not with the shipments. Those still run clean. But he starts spending. New car, expensive watch, a woman in Bangkok who likes jewelry, small things, stupid things. Lucas hears about it from a contact in Saigon. Calls Atkinson at 3 a.m. You drawing heat? No. Everything's clean. Then why am I hearing about a Rolex? Silence on the line. Static. Finally, it's handled. Handled doesn't mean invisible. You know what happens if someone starts asking questions? Nobody's asking. They will. Lucas hangs up, sits in the dark in his living room. He knows it's only a matter of time now. Not if, when. By mid-1971, the coffins have delivered over 600 kilos. The operation runs like clockwork. Every 2 weeks, sometimes 3. The money flows back through wire transfers, cash couriers, shell companies in the Caymans. Lucas is worth millions. Nobody knows how many, but the DEA is closing in. They've identified Atkinson. They've identified Collins. They haven't connected them to Lucas yet, but they will. Roberts gets a break in August. A low-level dealer named Blue flips. Blue worked for one of Lucas's cousins. Knows the structure, knows the family. Doesn't know the source, but knows enough. It comes in clean, Blue says. Never touched. Nobody cuts it until it hits the street. That's how he keeps the quality. Where's it coming from? Vietnam. That's all I know. Vietnam. Roberts writes it down. Looks up. How's he getting it past customs? Blue shakes his head. That's the thing. Nobody knows. November 1971. A mortuary worker named Jackson gets pulled over for a traffic stop near Dover Air Force Base. Routine. Broken taillight. The state trooper smells weed, searches the car, finds $20,000 cash in the trunk. Jackson panics, tries to run, gets tackled on the side of the road. At the station, Jackson makes a deal. He's not moving drugs. He's moving coffins. Wrong truck, wrong warehouse. He's been doing it for a year. He names Perry. Perry names Atkinson. Atkinson names Collins. The chain is breaking. Lucas hears about it 2 days later. A phone call from Bangkok. Ike's voice is tight, controlled, but Lucas can hear the fear underneath. It's done, Ike says. Feds grabbed Collins. He's going to talk. Lucas doesn't say anything, just breathes. The house is silent. Eva is upstairs with the kids. She doesn't know yet. Won't know until it's over. Can you get out? Lucas asks. Maybe. If I move now. Then move. Ike hangs up. Lucas sits there with the phone in his hand. He knows what comes next. Raids, arrests, trials, everything collapses. But not yet. Not tonight. The last coffin crosses the Pacific on January 19, 1972. Lance Corporal David Hernandez, killed by mortar fire near Da Nang, 22 years old. The casket contains 15 kilos of heroin in the false bottom. It never reaches Newark. Feds intercept it at Dover. Drill through the base, find the compartment, photograph everything. The next day, federal agents hit 4 locations simultaneously. Warehouse in Newark, house in Teaneck, apartment in Harlem, storage unit in the Bronx. They miss Lucas. He's in the city when it happens, sitting in a car on 145th Street, watching people who don't know their world just ended. His cousin Shorty is driving. They're going to come for you. Lucas nods. I know. What are you going to do? Disappear, for a while, until I figure it out. And then? Lucas doesn't answer. Because there is no then. This is the end. He knows it. Shorty knows it. The whole operation is burning, and there's no putting it out. Frank Lucas stays free for another 3 years. He vanishes from New York, surfaces in Detroit, then Chicago, then back to North Carolina. He's still moving product, but smaller now. Careful. No more coffins. No more bases. Just old-fashioned smuggling through Mexico and the Caribbean. But Roberts never stops hunting him. In January 1975, Lucas gets arrested outside a house in Teaneck. No drama, no shootout, just handcuffs and a long ride to the federal building in Manhattan. Roberts is there when they bring him in. Looks at Lucas across the table. Sees a man who changed everything and lost it all trying to hold on. You know how this ends, Roberts says. Lucas leans back, lights a cigarette. Yeah, I know. Then let's talk. Lucas pleads guilty to conspiracy to distribute narcotics. Federal charges, state charges, 40 years, later reduced. He cooperates, names suppliers, names buyers, names dirty cops. The trials go on for years. The Cadaver Connection becomes legend. Prosecutors call it the most audacious smuggling operation in U.S. history. Defense attorneys call it unproven. Lucas himself never backs down from the story, but investigators will argue about it forever. What no one argues about is the damage. Thousands of addicts, hundreds of deaths, families destroyed, communities wrecked, all because one man saw an opening during a war and decided profit mattered more than anything else. Lucas serves 7 years. Gets out in 1981. Returns to prison in 1984 for new charges. Gets out again in 1991. Lives quietly in New Jersey until his death in 2019 at age 88. The heroin he brought into America during those 3 years between 1969 and 1972 flooded the streets for a decade. Even after he was gone, the pipeline he built kept running, rebuilt by others who learned from his methods. Ike Atkinson gets arrested in 1973, serves 15 years. Collins gets immunity for testimony. Perry disappears and is never charged. Jimmy in Bangkok is never identified. Richie Roberts becomes a defense attorney after leaving law enforcement. He represents Frank Lucas during one of his appeals. They become, in their own strange way, friends. History cleaned up the story later, made it simpler, made Lucas into a folk hero or a monster, depending who's telling it. But the people who lived through it, the families in Harlem, the addicts in the Bronx, the soldiers whose coffins were used, they know the real cost. That cost doesn't fit in a movie, doesn't fit in a legend. It just sits there in the wreckage, permanent and cold, waiting for the next Frank Lucas to see the same opening and make the same choice. If this story stayed with you, hit subscribe, drop a like, and share it. There are more stories history tried to bury coming next. Stories about the moments when one man's ambition collided with a country at war, and everyone else paid the price. Don't miss them.